everyone. Welcome to another episode of 1 a.m. Today we have a pretty special guest, Austin, and we're going to ask some interesting questions. So a lot of our theme is about, what people do with their weekdays or their spare time. So we want to understand a bit about, how do you spend your Monday to Fridays outside work? Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks, Justin, for having me. Yeah, I'd say Monday to Friday these days are pretty routine. Go to the office, again, about 8:30, finish about, 6 to 7. And then I try to work out during lunch, so I do like 45 or went spinning for the first time. Well, not the first time, for first time in a long time with Justin last week. And then after work, it's pretty calm. Usually I don't really socialize much during the weekdays. I kind of go back home, wind down. I read, do a little bit more work. And yeah, it's a pretty boring weekday, actually. Yeah, well, you go F45 pretty consistently over, almost every day. What do you think it is about the workout or F45 that keeps you going back?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really not the physical at all. It's just the mental. I think it's really just the idea of showing up. And the good thing about F45 is you show up and you just got to do it. If I pull up in a gym, I'm probably not going to push as hard. And it's just the feeling of, working out with a group, and then you just get a good kick afterwards, and it kind of resets your day a bit. Yeah. And I like just the mental aspect of it, that it's just about showing up.
Yeah, like even when you don't feel like it at all, you had a really tough day at work, or it's been like a really tiring morning. What does showing up really mean to you? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think showing up is just showing up in every, showing up to your workout, to your work, obviously, and to your family, really. It's like through tough times, you show up for your family. And it's just a lot of times it's, you can't control the outcome, but you can control kind of, just you being there and you showing up.
Yeah, that's interesting. So just like showing up for all aspects of your life, like applying that to both family and friends too. For example, let's talk a bit about like showing up for people when it inconveniences you, like when family needs you or a friend needs you. Like, why is it important that you're there for them? Yeah.
Yeah, well, a lot of times, particularly family and close friends, there's always some trade-off. They might want you to be there at a certain point in time, somewhere, or do something. And it's just consistently showing up for them. And I think it's those acts of service that shows your care. I'm not really good at expressing myself. So that's just how you show, that someone matters.
Yeah. I mean, I think showing up isn't just about like, saying like meaningful words or always constantly being there, but it's when times matters, you're actually there for them. Yeah. What's one time you've showed up for me?
Yeah, I guess there was one time where Justin was a bit down when he was in Berlin. He was going through a bit of a rough patch, and I won't go into the details, but as I was leaving to the airport, I wrote a message to him and just gave him some words of encouragement, and yeah, he sort of showed up.
Yeah, I remember that time. I think it was definitely an important time that really showed your brotherly care for sure. Yeah. Yeah, what does it mean? I think one thing we talk a lot about is that we're very lucky to have each other amidst a lot of people in Hong Kong who maybe are by themselves or just moved here or who don't have family. Why do you find privilege in having family or siblings here in Hong Kong per se?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have a lot of friends who, they don't have family here and they take it out in other ways. But yeah, I would say having... Well, I think having family really means, it's not just about like having someone there, but it's just, yeah, you can experience things, even the small little things, really, like when I drive out with my dad and have a conversation. it's really those like, tiny moments and those really unimportant moments that matter the most, actually. Not unimportant, but those not like glamorous and whatnot moments. And those moments are actually the most special. It's not about the big dinners or celebrations. It's about the hikes, the car rides, the dinners at home, and that really gives you the deepest satisfaction.
I think that's true with a lot of relationships with family, with your significant other, with friends. You don't really remember like the big birthday parties or like the big dinners, but you remember a lot of the small things day in, day out, right? Sure. What are some of the small things you talk a bit about the car rides, you talk a bit about the hike. Why do those small things matter, you think, in repetition?
Yeah, I think it's really just about company. Like a lot of times in this modern world, like people are just lonely, and that can be on a Friday night, on a weekend, and then just be around family, or it can be close friends. But I think it's just the best is when you don't really have to talk and they're there. And it's like when I'm with Justin and my dad, sometimes we'll just drink a beer and then yeah, this there's like. It just, you don't have to talk too much. You're just enjoying, the beer and enjoying the surroundings.
Yeah. What do you think loneliness is a problem here in Hong Kong? And if so, like how big of a problem is it here?
Oh yeah, for sure. I reckon there's a lot of people who are lonely. I get lonely too. I think it's a weird phenomenon and paradox, because I feel, especially in Hong Kong, where there's a lot of socializing and you're constantly around people, you kind of need to be alone. But yeah, there's definitely bouts where loneliness, where you especially if you're single, you'll crave someone, you just want a company and whatnot. But yeah, I think the key is just surround yourself with good people and then do more exercise.
Yeah, I think it's just to do things that keep like some of these negative thoughts away. And how important of it is lifestyle to that, exercising or maintaining balance in your life. Like when do you notice like serotonin levels go up and down, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no we can't beat around the bush. There's no kidding ourselves. It's like when you go out, you maybe had one too many. It's really the Sunday nights where your serotonin starts to plummet. The Monday, it doesn't really rise back up. But yeah, I think especially in Hong Kong where going out is so easy. I mean, it is fun, but it's just it becomes repetitive and you're kind of using it. You're doing it week on week, then it doesn't get as fun. There's more fun things to do in Hong Kong. Yeah, I just went on a run, like midnight runners, and that was fun.
Yeah, I think one interesting thing is always like a tension between like immediate forms of pleasure and like kind of medium well-being and maybe long-term satisfaction. Like, do you think there's that you're conscious over that tension in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll admit many times I haven't been able to sacrifice that. I'm still working. I think that's definitely kind of something to work on for everyone, really. And yeah, I think there's just a lot of distractions, and it's really about quieting the mind and then knowing kind of what you want. I don't think I'm there yet, but I think having clarity of mind certainly helps.
Yeah, I think now we're in our late 20s. We've graduated for 5 years. How do you think your priorities has evolved? So you talk a bit about maintaining that sense of balance and that lifestyle. Like, how's that different from say when you're in your early or mid 20s?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's the biggest thing as I've aged is just knowing what matters. That's obviously cliche, but also not being too reactive to things. I think there's always things go up, things go down, people come, people go, things happen here and there, but just kind of being firm on what you want, and what your values are, and that helps a lot.
Yeah, I think realizing more and more what's important over time is like definitely takes a lot of mistakes and then like doing wrong and trial and experiment what are some of the mistakes you've made, or like some things you look back to now and you wish, were different? Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there are a lot of, in all aspects of life, actually. There are mistakes I made with my family. There are mistakes I made with my career. There are definitely mistakes I made with just people in general, how I treated them. But I think, I would say there's no one big mistake that I can think of. What I would say with all these mistakes is that it's more of just the process of introspection and kind of learning from those mistakes. Yeah. Flip it around. Like, what's something good? Like, what are good decisions you're proud of? You're like, oh, I'm happy. I made those decisions. I stuck to my ground. Things that you don't regret. Yeah, no, I think choosing to be in Hong Kong and be close to my dad is definitely something I don't regret whatsoever. I think that's a relationship I really treasure, and over the years since I've graduated, I've really built that relationship. I don't regret, I think, also just making some of those mistakes, because early on, I think after I graduated, I made a ton of mistakes, and that's taught me a lot, for sure, of like a lot of my weaknesses in particular, and it's re-humbled me. So I think that's something. If I would have like turned the pages back, I wouldn't, because it's a very humbling experience. Yeah. Do you think these, like for me, I feel a lot of my mistakes I've, come to learn, my boundaries as a person, like where I cannot extend beyond my limits and where I'm like more inclined to make mistakes. Like, what about you? Do you feel there are areas where you're like, or things where you're like, oh, I'm more likely to make those mistakes or like make these decisions? Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes maybe lifestyle. So, I definitely do go out a bit too much. And for those who know me will know that. Yeah. So it's kind of setting those boundaries. I'm slowly getting there because I know at least who I want to hang around with, because those people lift me up. Yeah. Yeah. Talk a bit about like friends in Hong Kong. Is it, do friends make who you are? Is it easy to make new friends? Is it easy to connect to people? Like, what is the social scene like as a young professional in Hong Kong? Yeah, I think, I think I definitely enjoy socializing. So I'm unafraid to meet people. But what I realized over the years is just your energy, and you just, after a long hard week of work, or like, especially when you're out, or like even the activities you pursue, you just want to spend it with the right people. And yeah, I think there's a lot of friends you can make in Hong Kong, and if anything, I realize I choose to spend time with people who I think values are somewhat aligned. And what sort of values? Yeah. I would say just spitting the bottle. nah. But I would say it's like just integrity. It's hard to describe, but if just with brothers, it's like watching out for one another and like just being true to your intentions. Yeah, being true to your intentions. I think now I'm more capable of seeing someone's intentions, and it's important to just hang around people who, it doesn't mean they have to have good intentions. Everyone has good and bad intentions, but they just have to be true to it. Yeah. Yeah, I think, in Hong Kong, like you definitely meet, or in any city, you meet a lot of people from, all spectrums, and people, through meeting more of these people, you realize those who uplift you or those who, make you feel uncomfortable. You talked about that energy, like people uplifting you. Why is that important, you think, like to have people uplift you, and how do you really find those sort of people? Yeah. Yeah, I'd actually reverse that question. I think it's more important to be in a position where you uplift others. Like I think you in Hong Kong, it's really easy to drain your energy in like a lot of different ways. So it's always, I think it's more just trying to be not about being useful to others, but when you're there with someone, being present. And I've been guilty of that with
with people where either I'm on my phone or I'm just not really, asking the right questions. But yeah, just being there and making sure that they feel after they've met you, that they feel that uplifted.
Yeah, I guess one other area is people like think a lot about what other people think, right? So like the spotlight effect, or like, and because they worry about what other people think, they maybe are less able to gel with the people that really uplift them. Like, do you think the spotlight effect is real, and like, do you feel that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think in Hong Kong, that's a really big thing. You'll constantly feel like you might be judged on your career, your group of friends, where you went to school, and all kinds of different things. But yeah, I think I'm fortunate in the sense I don't think too much about that, and I don't know if that's just how my parents have been like. But yeah, I would say it's just kind of knowing that, like, in most cases, when once you're like 70, 80, no one's gonna remember most of it. It's like a bit liberating. Yeah, when you die, it's I think especially now, we spend so much time on Instagram or whatever social media. Everyone's trying to depict a version of themselves, right? And especially when you first meet someone, or like you meet someone for a couple of times, you exchange social media, and it's like you present a version of yourself. Like, I think that's a bit unfortunate sometimes for people who maybe are less able to present themselves, or don't want to present themselves in that way. How do you think about that, like the relationships in real life versus that sort of social media interaction? I think of it like an onion. It's just like you gotta peel so many layers to get to someone, and it's also, social media forces you to also just be a like thick onion. Like it's very hard for people to peel those layers. I think when I was in UWC, you get straight to the core of who someone is, and that's actually that in and of itself is where you make real connection and raw connection. And that's, I think, as a working adult in Hong Kong, it's a bit harder to do that. Yeah, isn't it quite hard to peel those layers, because it's often quite hard to maintain a relationship in Hong Kong, because people really come and go, people are like kind of stuck in their work schedules. How do you really like get to know someone like to their core, or like, is that something that's even important? Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I think it's definitely difficult, because I think people are very guarded these days. Not just guarded, but they also have really high expectations. So those expectations can be mismatched between who the real person is. But I think it takes some proactive action where you have to be the one driving it. If you really want to make those genuine connections, then it's about avoiding people who don't want those connections, and then B is just asking good questions and really listening well to others. I think that's one thing I realized, that actually more often than not, people do actually are willing to talk, and it's just the assumption that they won't.
So what questions would you ask them? Say, you're on a date, meeting someone, like, you're trying to peel the onion. Like, what sort of questions do you ask to get to really know someone?
Yeah, what club you go out, No, I'm just kidding. But shout out to Cassia, no, I'm just kidding. But I'd say, like, what values matter to you? I really tend to ask someone's like family, because I really think how they speak of their family tells a lot about a person. I tend to ask about, kind of their hard times, because I think whether they're willing to open up about it and what they sort of reflect on it also says a lot about that person.
Yeah, I guess I think I heard this thing. It's like you only know the true side of a person when they, reach tough times, or they're really pushed to their limits, yeah. What is dating like in Hong Kong? Like, do you think it's difficult for most people? Is it like, a lot of people say it's like such a fleeting city. It's people come and go. It's just hard to really, maintain a relationship here. Yeah, no, I think I'm really thankful for all my exes. I've learned a lot from them and made mistakes too. What I would say with dating is yeah, I would say there's definitely a lot of people that you can meet, but it's also hard because I would say my expectations, it's not that it's high, but I do have certain expectations on the type of person I eventually want to marry. And I think a lot of girls also have their expectations. So, sometimes I question whether I can meet those two. But yeah, I think it's a lot about finding a person where your expectations are aligned and your values too. What are those expectations? Or like, what are those qualities you think? Yeah, like I think, and generally we could all say, you look for someone who's caring, you look for someone who's family centric, but it's a lot of people can be and they can't be too, right? I mean, yeah, I'm gonna leave out all the standard stuff, but I'd say patience is really important. I think I'm definitely here to try to play the long game, and I'm a strong believer that like times will get tougher as you marry. So someone who's just patient and understanding, and who really think like you can go at it together through the hard, rough times, and that's definitely the top quality I look for. Yeah, I think the tough thing about being in your 20s is you're constantly evolving or changing as a person. So you're not really, no one's really ever there in the perfect state where they can find that person. Do you think that it's like sometimes like right person, wrong time, wrong stage, and self kind of actualization, or yeah, no, that's a really good point. I definitely believe that people grow all the time. So sometimes you get a situation where one person maybe is immature, you have similar values, and then it's just mismatch of maturity, and that can be age, and there's no way around it because that's just how it is. So you just have to also not, you got to be true to yourself, that maybe, and I myself, I'm not there at that stage yet, and it's just being patient with that too. Yeah, and not trying to force it out of yourself to meet someone else's expectations. Yeah, I like that kind of sense of patience. When it comes, it'll come, and if you kind of hold those core values in place, then it's just really a matter of timing more than anything else. Yeah, I think kind of at this last segment, I feel, really lucky to have you on today. I feel like one thing that also really prompted me to start this podcast was, just always constantly asking questions. So like, being able to ask you questions, you ask me questions. Well, why is that something you value, or like that's important? Just asking questions, it's like little things. How was your day? Like, how's it going? Yeah. No, absolutely. That's a really good point. I think that's actually a really underrated kind of mode of communication, or just often not. I think in this modern world, we get less and less interested in other people's lives, and it makes you learn less. You also build less genuine relationships. So yeah, that's something Justin's really good at. He just hits you with the questions, Yeah, but it's good, Like I think that's when someone asks you a good question, that actually makes you think of things that you otherwise wouldn't have thought before. So yeah, I think I find that also very endearing. Like when someone asks you a question you're like, I actually have to think about that. It's like when they would like ask you like, would you pick between this or this, and why? Do you remember any of those such questions where they're like, really made your kind of head tilt, or like you're like, oh, like I really have to think about this, but because it's so such a complex question, you really have to like give it a go. Yeah,
I can't really pinpoint one, but I do remember one time my dad was like, "Oh, do you want to sleep at my grandmother from my dad's side or from my mom's side?" And I was really hesitant because I don't know. I was like, which side to show my loyalty? And I think I sort of did it just because I would say, yeah, at that moment, and still to this day, I have immense loyalty to my dad. And yeah, I guess it kind of shows a bit of your values, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think you think about those really odd moments that really put you in the spot. Yeah. I think growing up, like I feel we've always had this like interesting dynamic where we're both there for each other, but also competing against each other in some way. When we would like compete, who would run fastest to the bus station, who would get to the basketball team first, who would get a debate team first. How do you find, like, how do you reflect on that, like the competition versus that, care?
No, I think it's definitely a blessing. It pushes you more. But I think as the older we get, we still have areas where we do compete, but it's less so. It's actually more encouraging than competitive. And that's really just kind of getting older. But yeah, a lot of funny memories competing together for sure. Where we would, like run to the station, who would be the fastest, and argue all the way to school. And yeah, it's just good memories really at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think thinking back to those memories definitely like make you think like, well, like, privilege is definitely extremely real. And I think, growing up in Hong Kong, then going out to see the world, you definitely are constantly reminded of that. And, I think something I'm really conscious of is like just we're in this privileged bubble, Yeah, like you feel in that sense of bubble a lot, and like it's easy to get desensitized to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I can happily admit there are instances where I've displayed behavior where, I seem spoiled and almost privileged, like too privileged, and I'm definitely not proud of that. But yeah, there's a lot of privilege in terms of being able to travel, studying abroad. And when I think about privilege, it's a lot about obviously not just recognizing it, but thinking of it is not in terms of material means, but more in terms of you had the privilege to be able to think in that way, to meet these people, and that's the real privilege.
Yeah, we talk a lot about like, when we have a down day or like, made some bad decision, but like, at least we're still alive, or like we're really lucky, Do you think that's a good thing? Do you constantly like fall back and just your baseline is that you're alive, therefore, you made some bad decisions, or, you have a bad day, but you're not really confronting your issues?
Yeah, I think that's probably on the margin worse than like not as good, because you just default to a baseless privilege. I think it's good that you're alive for sure, but if you use that as a way to make you feel better, then that's not really that effective. I think real privilege comes in actually not your down moments, but in your best of moments, to realize that a lot of those good outcomes happen because of privilege. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, like privilege in your best moments. Yeah. So, extending on that, like, when we, going into our, 30s, and, what's a ideal life like in your 30s, like to, make use of that privilege, or what does that look like? You're 35, what does life look like?
Yeah, I think I'm a pretty simple guy. I don't crave too expensive food. I definitely want a family. To just wake up in the morning, have a coffee, and then, sit, send your kids off to school. Just really simple things. That is a real privilege, to be able to exercise. This all sounds really cliche. I'm sure 90% of people out there also want that. But being 35, I don't know. I mean, yeah. Hopefully not going out too much, And then yeah, just having a great relationship with my dad and Justin, obviously my sister. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's exciting. I think but I like what you said. It's really just like the simple things. Like it's not about like the glamorous things or like trying to be somebody. Yeah. Like, what are some like small moments in your day that delight you? Like, is it getting to office, having coffee? Is it like the walk after your workout? Like, what are those moments that kind of keep you going? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely when I tend to eat every day for lunch the same thing, and it's a post-workout lunch where I get a lot of clarity, and obviously I'm really hungry, so I eat. But I think that's the best moment of my day actually, because I feel really like you've had a great workout, you've like really worked your body, and you're just eating like good nutritious food, and it just feels good. Yeah, and that is a blessing. I count that. Yeah, it's a blessing. I'd probably say so too. It's like that kind of post-workout clarity where your endorphins are there and you're excited for the day. Yeah. Talk a bit about the repetitions week on week. It's like, do you find it repetitive? Like, how do you kind of make each week different, or do you do not mind these repetitions? Yeah, it's weird actually, because I think now as I get older, I enjoy repetition more and more. I learn a lot from my boss on just doing the same thing every day, but just maybe one foot forward, and you kind of see slow progress, but it's like really gratifying. And I think that repetition is really nice because it puts your mental head state like very firm, and I definitely enjoy that. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. One question I'd like to ask, at the end, I asked Jihyun this on the first episode. It's like, your 40-year-old self, what would they say to you now? Like, yeah, I'd say definitely drink less. Probably, yeah, even spend time with even more people. Like, spend time with people, more quality time with people that really matter. I still do think I spend, and then it's not just friends, and it's other people. Yeah, and probably just kind of be patient. I think be patient. Like, focus on the process, and the outcomes will follow. Yeah, I really like what you always say. It's like process over outcomes. Yeah. So I also asked this to every interview. Flip the question, your 18-year-old self, like looking at you now. I'm sure there are like ways where you're like, oh, wish this could be different, but what would they also be happy about? Like some of the experiences you went through, and like you pulled through, you were able to stand back up after tough times. Yeah, I would say like probably just really glad our families like together. That is most comforting really, that we're together in the same city, and that we have really good support system, and that is, I think, what I'll look and be very, as an 18-year-old self, look and feel very confident. Yeah, I think people always come in and go out of your life, right? But having that core, that really, your relationship. I mean, our relationship with family. Our relationship that's always stood through thick and thin. But how do you find? I think for a lot of people who have important people who have left their life, whether it's someone who's left, or a relationship, or friends who've you unfriended. How do you think about that? Like, people coming, being a big part of your life, and then no longer so. Yeah, I will quote one of my exes here, which is there's every chapter to a book, and you'll kind of read back, and you'll always be thankful for that, and that could be a relationship, family member, a really good friend, and just being really grateful. I think coming from a position of when I think back about that, there's no bitterness, there's no negative feelings. It's just first arriving at a point that you're grateful to have experienced that. Yeah.
just being grateful all around, yeah, but yeah, not forgetting it's not always having like that baseless privilege.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool. I think maybe we'll swap it around to wrap up. Like maybe let's ask Austin to ask some questions,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, what inspired you to start this podcast? I mean, it's what, like 10 p.m. now, like what you're, putting in the hours and, you're interviewing a lot of people who like inspired you to start. I think first of all, I think it's just to feel like free time. I think and spend too much time just like scrolling around, reading news, consuming like just unimportant temporary content, and fleeting content. And I think one thing I really like about is just, being able to unpack some stories of people that are unheard, and I think more often than not, people do share similar emotions. There's just a lot of elephant in the rooms that people don't like to put out there. And so I think hearing what other people have to think about different aspects of their life outside work can be comforting. Yeah. Let's see. What's your favorite cocktail? Well, my favorite cocktail, I mean, I think I could drink G&Ts all night, but yeah, I would say, my favorite time is always the evening, the sunset, I love I saw this, I forgot who, this other podcaster said, I always want to be healthy enough to enjoy a nice Negroni at sunset, to smoke a nice cig, to, enjoy these things in life, to not over enjoy them, but you want to be healthy enough to enjoy them, right? Yeah. What's your favorite cocktail?
Shout out to Diplomat. They have this like pandan cocktail that's really nice. Yeah. All right, I guess final question. I guess what are you most looking forward to in the next 5 years? Yeah.
Yeah, good question. I think is to curate a lifestyle and, a daily routine you want to, I don't think it's to create a life you want to, but it's about the little things like, what do you want to be spending your days doing? What do you want, what type of, home do you want to be going back to, and I think everyone can imagine or daydream about that. And I do too, I won't say on this podcast, but like, I have a very clear idea of like what I want to be doing when I'm at work, and when, the type of home I want to be back to. Yeah. What about you? Like, what's in 5 years? Yeah, I think we keep a healthy body, a healthy mind, because everything will follow from that. And yeah, hopefully get married, start a family, and then yeah. All right. Well, any departing words for the audience? It's probably your only and last time, but maybe you'll have a second chance. Yeah, no, shout out to Justin. Even though we're brothers, I think this has made me think of, some things like including what my favorite cocktail is. But for the questions. Yeah, for sure. But I think, I really like this concept of questions. And I think when you're put on the spot, actually, you reevaluate certain things. Yeah, so thanks, Justin. Yeah. Thank you. Well, yeah, to that end, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed a special guest tonight. I guess we'll have some cocktails now. No, maybe not. Just kidding. All right, good night, everyone.